Hello, good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of the Mackmyra Inn. I'm Mickey Plummer. You can follow me on that Instagram, Mickey of the Mac. And obviously tonight, my fellow landlord, Richard McKee.
Hello everyone. Hello Mickey. Hello Justine, and hello to all our patrons watching from home.
And guys, you'll all notice that we have another special VIP patron this week, and that is the lovely Justine Hazelhurst of Kask Whisky fame. Good evening, Justine.
Hi Mickey, how are you doing?
Very good, pal. How are you? See, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? Honestly, every single time, it never ever fails. So, Rich, what have you been up to this week, my friend?
Well, work. Getting ready for Black Friday and dealing with lots of orders in the run up to it. I've had no time today for myself to actually look online and see if there's anything anywhere that I want to buy. So, looking forward to doing that. Settling down after a few drams here, and probably won't be quite as disciplined with my money after this. We'll see what happens. But that's it. That's me,
guys.
Yeah.
Over this weekend, we've actually got our own Black Friday deals as well on mackmyra.co.uk. We've got an Explorers pack, we've got a seasonal pack, and live at the moment today we've got the Moments pack as well. So you can check out some. There you go. There's the Moments pack. That's like 400 quid's worth of whiskey for 275 quid. Phenomenal. Some great drams in there as well. Justine, have you seen any Black Friday deals come your way today?
I'll be honest, I mean, the number of emails I've got, I need to actually sort of sift through them all. But I tend to avoid things like that. And but there are spectacular deals. I know that a distillery close to me, Holyrood, they've got some great Black Friday deals going on at the moment for both their whiskey and their gin. So I think that's worth taking a punt on.
Nice. Really. No, definitely. So we'll get in and about who you are and things like that in a second, Justine. Really, Richard, we've got a cool show coming up on Wednesday next week as well, haven't we? For a Mackmyra Life.
Yeah,
we have the lovely Moa Nielsen of Swedish Whiskey Girl fame joining us for well, basically just to take the mick out of myself and Richard, really, Justine. Just have a wee chat about Swedishness, Swedish whiskey, and how we pronounce things, really.
I was just going to ask, how is your Swedish? How?
You'll find out some bits during the show, and definitely on Wednesday you'll find out. Some bits. Yeah, probably about a 6 out of 10, and other bits we'll be lucky to get a 1, mate. To be honest with you.
Skål. I've got that one, and the other Swedish words or whatever our whiskies are called. Beyond that, I'm not very clued up. Yeah.
So Moa will be mocking us. So if everybody wants to join us on Wednesday to help Moa mock us,
well, Nick,
basically,
I'll add one thing. So there's. I've heard people saying, since I found out about Mackmyra, and certainly while I've been working there, people, some say Mackmyra, some say Mackmyra, and Moa says it's completely different to both of those things. So I think, Mackmyra. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being schooled on that.
So we'll find out the proper one anyway.
Yeah.
So that's us coming up for 6:05, guys. That's mine and Richard's round. So chime in the comments who's having what. Justine, what's in your glass this evening, pal?
So this evening I have a blended Scotch whisky from the 70s. It's nice hanky banner. I will point out the glass, by the way. So this is made by my good friend Karen Somerville from Angel Share Glass. So if I hold up the glass and I don't give her a plug, she'll kill me. Okay, so
plug away, pal. Plug away. Let's not have you dead. You let me on your face. Oh, there you go.
Excellent. 2 plugs.
As well.
That's it.
This is.
I've got some brownie points now.
Yeah, well done. Get a quick plug in.
Yeah, and it's a blended whiskey, hanky bannister. I've got the bottle here from the 70s. One of my favourites anyway. But have since really fallen in love with it since I discovered that this whiskey was actually bottled across the road from where I now live. Sadly,
awesome.
That's no more, but that's where the bottling plant for Hanky Bannister was once. So yeah, lovely brand.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
Probably
pretty cool.
very sherry. Probably got a fair bit of Glenfarclas in, apparently, so I've heard. But either way, it's fun. So cheers.
Definitely solid. Excellent. What have you got yourself, Rich?
Well, I've got one of ours. I've got a single cask from us, but I'll just say about the angel share thing. So I've this one of my friends who may be watching now, my friend Tom bought this as a gift for me some time ago. So a dropper with a little copper pot still on the top, and I've loved it and cherished it for the last couple of years. And I only ever bring it out on tastings and when we do our shows. The rest of the time, I've got these boring plastic ones. So when I'm on my own, that's what I get in case I drop it. But just to look fancy and sophisticated, I always get this one out for when we're doing our live stuff. So,
Rich, you've given away your secrets, though, Paul. You've given away your secrets.
Well, we're doing this as a pub chat. You know, this is a time for us just to sort of sit back and enjoy. So happy to share some secrets. Yeah. So I'm drinking something actually almost to celebrate its arrival. He does as well. That's what he does in his spare time for us before the show. He makes sure that Justine has brought her ID along and that she can get in and everything.
Exactly.
So yeah, he's got a second roll. But so I'm drinking this. This is from our Ready Cask range. So the Whisky Circus. It's a club or a group that I'm a member of, and we bought this some months ago. Just it arrived last week, and I can't drink it fast enough at the moment. It's one of the only things that I've ever bought more than 1 or 2 bottles of at a time. So I told myself that the first one I open, I'll just drink it however quickly I want to, enjoy it, and then perhaps move a bit more slowly through the rest. But yeah, happy that it's here. So cheers from me and the Whisky Circus. Yeah.
Cheers.
Fantastic.
And what about you, Mick? What have you got?
So this evening, as always, I've gone to start off with, I've gone for a nice long refresher. So a nice wee G&T. So I've added our lab gin with some manzana verde, which is like a green apple liqueur. So a nice house measure of the lab distillery gin. A wee half of that with the manzana verde, and then just topped up with our creator tonic. Just over ice, nice, refreshing, nice ease into the weekend before a busy weekend of tastings, etc. So nothing too heavy on the palate to start off with.
No, well, I'll ask is Steve. I'd like to hear from Steve in the comments whether he thinks that's a doorman's drink. He can let us know whether or not that's something you associate with that. Yeah.
It might depend on the club.
Yeah, exactly. Depends on the club. Good point. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, as always, guys, let's get to know our VIP patron a little bit better. So, Justine, welcome again. Tell us a bit about yourself, pal.
Well, I'm the founder of Kask Whisky, which sounds kind of flash, but essentially that's just me. I am one person. That's it. That's the business. And the reason I just went by the moniker Kask Whisky is because at the time when I started off on social media, etc., I was a teacher. So I was a secondary school teacher. And I just didn't want the kids to find me on social media. So I gave myself a completely different name. So that's how Kask. And today, essentially, it's an events company. So I run tastings and I organize tours. And a few years ago now, about 8 years ago, I moved to Leith. And where I moved, right opposite where I live, there was this really old derelict bonded warehouse. I couldn't find out any information. I'd have pals over, would talk about me heading over there. Is there any cask in this old bonded warehouse? Couldn't find any information about it at all. But whilst I was trying to work out who owned it, what it was for, I found out absolutely everything about every other bonded warehouse in Leith, but nothing about it.
Not that particular one.
No, but there were about 90 to 100 bonded warehouses in Leith.
Oh, wow.
And it absolutely fascinated me, the history here. And so I started these tours in conjunction with the Leith Festival that runs here. I was going to say every and people love them. So there are these, the whiskey walking tours, about 45 minutes in the history. And then we go to the local pub, which you'd probably fit in as the doorman there, Mickey. It hasn't changed for about 26 years. It took a global pandemic for them to start accepting card payments.
One of those kind of gaps, right? Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, the pub hasn't changed. So it's the ideal setting. We try some of these old blends, like the Hanky Bannister I've got this evening, and so all of these are from the 60s and 70s, sort of matched to the walking route. The first tour I did, I think I had 12 people. 11 of them had never had whiskey before. One had actually had whiskey. One of the questions I was asked en route was, what is barley? And I thought, oof, this is going to be a tough draw because
it's going to be one of those days, right? Okay.
Yeah. So the next tour, I thought, okay, I geared myself up for this thing. Again, I had 12 people, and I think 4 of them were doing distilling and brewing Harriet Watt, and 2 were actually building their own distillery. So those 2 individuals were Kelly Rob Carpenter, obviously went on to build Holyrood. And off the back of the Leith tour, they asked me if I would make a similar tour around the south side of Edinburgh for Holyrood Distillery. So I've been working with them with their history, designing their tours, similar concept.
Awesome.
And then we have the trams now in Leith. Well, they're building the trams. So Leith really does look at the moment. I mean, it's like I had a group of guys from New Zealand on a tour, and they told me it really reminded them of home after the earthquake. So
Brilliant.
it really does look like somebody's dropped a bomb on parts of it. So because it's quite difficult to get to Leith and difficult to walk around, I started a different tour called the Stockbridge Whisky Trail. Very little of that takes place in Stockbridge, if I'm honest, but it takes in about 3 lost distilleries. We start off near Haymarket and then work our way through down to Stockbridge. So that's kind of what I do for whiskey. And then with my friend who I mentioned earlier, Karen Summer, we both started the Fife in 2017. So we had the goddesses on our side this year because we managed to get our festival in just before lockdown.
Just in time, just in the nick of time.
So that's grown from strength to strength, and we hope that we can have some kind of festival in 2021. But as you guys know, everything is so uncertain. You just take each day as it comes. So we'll see.
Definitely.
No, for sure.
So that sounds exciting.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, mate. I was going to say that sounds super interesting. That's a brilliant origin story, for sure. And starting to do some consulting work as well, for other businesses along the way, helping them with tours and things. So, Kevin has asked us in the comments if you've seen the Falkirk distillery yet. Apparently, it's been a bit of a labour of love. Yeah.
So I haven't seen. I'm assuming you mean the Falkirk distillery and Rosebank, but I haven't seen the Falkirk yet. I've seen plans, and again, Karen, she knows quite a lot about the project. With what's going on, I haven't actually physically been there myself yet, so looks fascinating. I mean, there's so many distilleries cropping up now. New one in Stirling. I mean, if you're trying to, I think there's one right up near John O'Groats. Trying to keep all of the new distilleries being built in Scotland at least is quite a task. So, but look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, obviously, myself and Neil, Justine, obviously our latest edition of the Quake podcast. We touch on a couple of those new distilleries, Wolf Creek, Frew and Stirling, obviously, and the Port of Leith distillery as well, which I'm quite interested to visit because obviously it's going to be styled very similar to our distillery. Being vertical, so that could be quite interesting, Rich. We'll have to go and take a wee whirl around that once it's up and running and open.
Most definitely, most definitely.
I mean, I don't think the original plans were to build a vertical distillery. I think because of the changes with where they originally wanted, and then the plot of land that they then ended up with. It's quite a small plot of land. The only way literally is up.
Is that right?
But they're cracking guys, Paddy and Ian from Port of Leith. They're a wonderful team. So it will be. They've overcome quite a lot of obstacles to get to where they are. So, yeah, really looking forward to that opening.
I think Mickey, you actually were the person that shared that information with me about this new vertical distillery going up in Edinburgh. And at the time, I said to you, oh, perhaps, in 20, 30 years or however long it will be, we'll see a few, urban distilleries perhaps being built like that. You're talking, Justine, about the lack of land and the small plot that they had. I imagine there'll be some places in towns and cities, cities predominantly across the UK, where you can squeeze in a distillery, so long as you do it upright. I think so. If it's successful and it works well, and it does the job, you make good whiskey. I think perhaps a trend catching on.
Absolutely.
Potentially. So just you mentioned about having the Fife Whisky Festival in some form next year. Do you reckon it'll be digital?
I think. I mean, never say never, but I think not. So the Fife Whisky Festival is actually a very small festival when you compare it to, say, Glasgow, Whisky Fringe. Both of those festivals I absolutely love. I've been going to the Whisky Fringe 2007, I think. But ours is very, very different, very small. So we sell probably about 125 fewer tickets than we could, just to keep it very, very small and friendly. And that's why it works. And I'm not sure that Karen and I really have that inclination to try and do that online. There are so many other people doing it and have been doing it so well during lockdown. I'm not sure in March going to be something for us. So we do have a plan B, but it won't be a virtual whiskey festival. And we haven't sorted it all out yet, but we want people to get to distilleries is what we want to do. Yeah.
That's it.
So,
well, fingers crossed for that one, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, whether we could be lucky twice, I mean, who knows? But I think it was Ian at Glengarry who said it would be extremely weird if the Fife Whisky Festival was the first and last festival that he'd been to in a 12-month period. But fingers crossed.
Well, that could be pretty funky. Do you know what I mean? If people can validate that they were there for the last one before lockdown, and then purchase tickets for the first one after lockdown, some sort of commemorative T-shirt. I seen it out and seen it back again or something. Do you know what I mean?
So saying, this is the second time I've left my house in 12 months. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Don't give Karen ideas. She'll sell anything. So.
Commemorative glassware, it's all the rage.
Yeah. No, I mean, fingers crossed. We would love to do it. And, it is a business. The festival is a business. We don't make a huge amount of money. As I say, we keep it very small. But it will have to be financially viable for us to do.
Of course.
We have to limit numbers. That's fine, as long as we cover costs. But I have a funny feeling that if we go ahead, I mean, one of the roles that I do as part of the festival is the sort of marketing and social media content and the ticket sales. And that's actually, in normal times, quite difficult because you're not just competing for sales, you're competing for exhibitors as well, But for ticket sales, I mean, in normal times, if you wanted to, you could go to a whiskey festival every single weekend somewhere in the UK. And so, it's a constant slog over 7, 8 months, social media posts promoting the festival, selling tickets. I have a funny feeling if we can go ahead, I'll probably sell them all in a week.
Honestly, since you're the first one back, you're either going to have to move it to the SECC and make it massive, or you're going to be fighting people off to say, actually, no, I'm full.
Yeah. But we haven't planned, because I mean, as I say, we don't know when the vaccine is going to come. We don't know when it's going to arrive in Scotland. And, one thing we know over the last sort of 7 months is that everything is very uncertain and things can change, at a sort of drop of a hat. So
100%.
we have a plan B, and then our fingers and toes crossed. That's how we're going to do it.
Talking about exhibitors, I won't ask you who your favourites were unless you're willing to, to divulge and share. But who did you have along last year?
Well, at the first festival, I'm going to have to say Tiki Whiskey, because I know Dave is on.
Dave's watching. I'm not going to influence that answer whatsoever.
And for the last, so for this year, I say last year, this year's festival, James Eady and Luvian's got together and came up with our first bottling. So James Eady, wonderful, and favourites of ours. But we love all the exhibitors. And when Karen and I designed this festival, we had two things in mind. Well, firstly, it was, is this the kind of festival we go to? And then the second, this is going to sound a little bit daft, but both Karen and I are a little bit, vertically challenged. We're very short. So when we go to whiskey festivals, if they're busy, exhibitors just can't see us. Well, there's like 2-3 people at the stand, and we're trying to get our glass in, and nobody can actually. So we decided that we would design a festival for short people, and tall people would be so yeah,
you could have some hats fashion, some big tall hats that say I'm the founder, I created this. So when people see that top hat coming around, they know to get out of the way or to fill your glass as quickly as possible.
But and so that's why we keep our numbers down, because we want people to be able to sort of move around, and as a result, because it is such a small festival, exhibitors wise, we initially invited all of the Fife distilleries, and most of those are quite new and small, and they wouldn't have the same marketing budgets as some of the big players. So we kept it in mind that we would only have smaller companies, independent bottlers, smaller distilleries, so that everyone was on a level playing field. And then the second year we invited a few big names, and again this year a couple of big names, but essentially we have a lot of smaller companies, smaller distilleries, smaller independent bottlers, so that's kind of the nature really of the festival.
Nice.
Yeah, so just seen what Dave's, all tall people had to be on their knees during the festival.
That's just because Dave's not very tall himself.
But yeah, I mean, we have some cracking exhibitors. They're obviously what make any whiskey festival, the actual exhibitors. So we have to bribe them. I don't know if you've been to Cooper in Fife or even in St Andrews. There's a bakery called Fisher and Donaldson, and they make their world famous fudge donuts, and they are absolutely to die for. So I think the first year we managed to get exhibitors to book on the basis that we would give them fudge donuts. So nice. It's become a bit of a thing now. So so Fisher and Donaldson, we usually order like 180 fudge donuts.
Well, pencil us in for next year then, and roll on the donuts, Rich. Eh?
Yeah, I'll jump on the train. Yeah, I'll come up for that. Me.
Sounds fantastic. No, really. I mean, it's a sort of thing.
Oh, so I was only going to say, I really like the idea of having lots of independent bottlers at a festival as well. But if you're trying to keep it small, that's a brilliant way. Or, not small necessarily, but not big. And something you can have it intimate and a bit more personable. But having independent bottlers there gives you the opportunity for people to try lots of different distilleries' whiskey all at one table, rather than just, one brand, which can be great, of course. But independent bottlers, you've got that a huge array of different things that you can try as well. So that to me sounds very good. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go,
Oh,
Fisher
there
and
you go.
Donaldson fudge donuts.
Yeah.
Nice. Good find, Con. Good find.
Oh, they're pretty good. They're pretty good.
Are they the actual donuts, Justine, or did he just find some donuts online and share the
They
picture?
look very similar to the Fisher and Donaldson fudge donuts.
Oh,
So.
they would be the ones. Con's pretty good at his research
Yeah,
and doing that. Like, yeah, they'll be
he's
the
been
ones.
very
Sure.
good since we started the Mackmyra Inn. So he's Johnny on the spot with some very apt and accurate pictures. So yeah, I do believe in him. So when you're not running festivals and doing tours and things like that, Justine, what sort of things you're interested in outside of whiskey? Are there other drinks or spirits you're interested in, or hobbies that might be good?
I mean, especially during lockdown, the opportunities because of these virtual events, because of online shows like this, the amount of information that's been available has been phenomenal. So I've taken the opportunity cognac a wee bit more, rum, especially rum, and explore those two countries with the Edinburgh Whisky. So we've divulged a little bit into those areas. So absolutely fantastic rums out there. So I think that's what I'm exploring at the moment. Quite nice being a newbie again. I do like that. You do take some knowledge from the whiskey world with you, but it's quite nice seeing that new. Puts you in the position of somebody, say, for example, who's new to whiskey. And you start thinking of the questions that you ask, and it helps you, remember what it was like when you first started on the whiskey journey, and therefore don't take anything for granted when you're.
Definitely.
Yeah, no silly questions. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So cognac and rum, are the two areas I'm looking at, and also Dave is distracting me with his comments. I might have to switch the comments off.
Have you learned how to juggle?
Can you juggle?
I can actually juggle, but not because I learned during lockdown years ago. This is going to sound like a really weird story, but years ago. So I speak French, and I studied in France, and in the apartment above me when I was living in France, there was a woman called Endele from Cameroon, and she used to juggle to help her stress levels. So she taught me how to juggle when I was studying at business school in France, and the exams were coming up, and I was getting stressed. She taught me how to.
Awesome.
I can only do three. Though. I'm not like fire stars. I will be on the Royal Mile next August. Don't worry.
I'm glad
The whiskey
brought it
bottles
up.
offering tours.
Because we actually have one of our colleagues, our fellow brand ambassador Gareth Bell, is actually outside your door right now with some juggling balls. So if you can go and open the door for him, you can give us all the show. Thank you, Dave, for the setup.
Well, honestly, the doorbell will go now, but it'd just be purely coincidence.
I know my heart's start racing. I have to perform on demand. Oh dear.
Oh dear. Brilliant. So, what made you want to stop being a secondary school teacher? I mean, we know kids are a pain in the bum. Do you know what I mean? And then, so what made you want to stop doing that and then take up whiskey tours?
I guess, I've been a teacher for about 18 years, and I mean, does anybody stay in the same career these days for the rest of their whole life? I think people chop and change. You change. Suddenly the job changed immensely. Yeah. So I think for a good couple of years before I left, I just wasn't terribly happy. When you wake up on a Monday morning and you go, oh, geez, if you get that feeling, it's time to make a decision. You say to yourself, am I going to do this for the rest of my life, or do something else? And so I started Kask whiskey just to see if it was something that I could build on, make a living out of. After a good couple of years as doing it as a sideline, I guess, full-time job, that's when I handed in my resignation. And I still have friends who are still teachers, but I have to say it was one of the best moments ever. My resignation, it's a great feeling.
I remember the feeling. It was a year ago. I did a similar thing. Obviously, I wasn't a teacher. There's no way I could influence the youth of today. Not even remotely. I don't think they would work on that.
Not in a positive way, anyway.
Exactly. So no, up until November last year, I was an engineer. I worked at BAE Systems. And obviously over the past good few years, educating myself, put myself through courses, Whiskey Ambassador, WSET, getting more and more into my whiskey, more passionate about it. As you can see behind me, you know, growing that wee collection up and drinking. Well, that's even a quarter of probably what I've bought over the past few years or whatever. But that's another story.
Say 3 months.
Well. But no, I got that as well, Justine. I know exactly what you mean. You know, you go to bed on a Sunday night and you can't sleep properly because you're like, ugh, I can't really be bothered with tomorrow. And you get up on Monday morning and you're a bit sluggish and you go, ugh, another week of this. And it does get to you, doesn't it, really, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what I mean? My contract was due for renewal. They offered me my new contract. I said, that's lovely. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But no thanks. They were like, oh, what are you going to do? And I went, I'm going to try and get a job in whiskey. Well, have you got anything lined up? Nope. And so, yeah, I walked out after my notice period, didn't have a job to walk into. Luckily enough, I found a job a week later and then come into this role with Mackmyra, etc. So it worked out quite well for me. But yeah, it was about 3 days after leaving the job, I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do? I don't have a job.
It's kind of, for me, it was kind of weird because I was working from home. In fact, I mean, I was working from home for about 3.5 years. And then I finally decided to move into an office about 2 weeks before lockdown. So I was like, you can't make that shit up, can you? 3.5 years working from home. And then, anyway, it was actually a godsend. It's a kind of creative arts center. So it was great. There were people around. But yeah, I mean, life's too short, really, to sort of be doing something, you know, that you're not happy doing. So you just have to make that decision. Am I going to carry on doing this, or am I going to leave my my job with secure pension and paid holidays and sick pay to move into the unknown? But if you want it enough, then you'll get you. If you want to change your life, you have to work hard.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing, Justine, isn't it? You know, you walk out of that relative security and you go, do you know what? I need to make this work. I'm going to work my bum off to make sure this works because, you know, next month I need to pay the mortgage and I need to pay the bills and, you know, the dog needs fed and I need fed and the kids need fed and everything else. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, yeah, so you do, don't you? You work your fingers to the bone to make it work, you know? But no, it was quite interesting to hear, you know, that you found out about all these other bonded warehouses down in Leith, because obviously at one time Leith was such a haven, wasn't it, really, for the whiskey industry?
Well, I mean, Leith was, the centre. I mean, it was because it was Edinburgh's port. Everything was going out, and it was the ideal place to. I mean, originally it was the centre for storing brandy, and then various different things, primarily.
Phylloxera, yeah.
That also killed both of those, the wine and brandy industries, for a good 40 years. Yeah. So Leith's role changed, and those casks of wine and brandy were replaced with Scotch whisky. So everything grew up from there. And yeah, I mean, Leith is a very hipster place now. I mean, if you walk into bars when they're open, lots of World War I facial hair and leather aprons and all this malarkey. But I mean, in the 60s, 50s, 60s, it was an absolute shithole. It really was. It was not the easiest place to be living. And that's how
it was just a typical docks town, though. You know, I grew up in Plymouth.
Exactly.
In Devonport and Plymouth. Do you know what I mean? So, like, at the heart of the docks of Plymouth. When I was in the Navy, I was based in Portsmouth. Again, you know, and I've visited, obviously, places around the world into various docks and things like that, you know. And they're always very rough around the edges, shall we say. You always make sure if you've gone out, you get a taxi out the gate and you get taxis back in the gate again. You don't tend to walk those couple of surrounding streets generally, you know. But no, they are very rough areas to grow up in, but, you know, salt of the earth people. But I really enjoy Leith because you can go from a proper old school pub for a pint, say like the Chuckers Landing or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Where they've got a fantastic collection of bottles up on the bar from many years ago, and you look at it, and you go, oh wow, so you can have a dram from them in a pint, and then you can go literally a less than a 5-minute walk down the road and end up in a Michelin star restaurant at the kitchen by the time it's eating. Do you know what I mean? So you've got both ends of that spectrum.
And Leith is very much a place of juxtapositions. I mean, you've got the banana flats built in the 1960s, which is it's an A-listed building, so that's not going anywhere. And it's directly opposite the vaults, which was the vaults themselves originated from the 1500s. Yeah. So you've got these buildings, and Leith's history has always been a kind of juxtaposition of the extremely wealthy and the extremely poor, and amount in the middle. So I mean that's the nature of Leith, really. But talking about Chuktas, one of the best things, pubs reopen, everybody head to Chuktas and play the Hoop of Destiny. I don't know if you tried that.
But, that's the Hoop of Destiny. Yes, I've never come out on top of it before. I've always got an average dram, which has never put me off playing it though.
No.
What is the Hoop of Destiny? Because I've had 2 cousins live in Leith over the years. But I've only ever been there while it's been gentrified, or at least in the process of being so. I don't think I was there while it was all, the way that you were talking about the back in the day at Leith, at least. But never heard of the Hoop of Destiny. What is it?
So essentially, you pay. I mean, I don't know. It's around £4. I don't know how much it is these days. And they give you a little plastic, and you get 3 tries. Throw the hoop and get the hoop to land over the bottleneck. Whichever one you manage to get, you get a dram. You can get like a Glenfarclas. There's 18-year-old Highland Park. There's some really nice drams on the back. But if you don't get any of them, you end up with a dram of sheep dip, blended malt from Abbott. It's quite nice, and the price you pay for the game is the same as the sheep dip. But the very first time I played that, I was with a bunch of friends, and so I normally wear glasses, but I can't see anything close up, which is why I've taken them off. So whenever I play the Hoop of Destiny, I just take my glasses off so I can't see anything, and then just throw the hoop. So first time nothing.
Hope for the best.
First time nothing, second time nothing, and then third time it just landed on the bottle. So of course all of my pals cheered. They're like, yay! And when they picked up the bottle, it was actually the bottle of sheep dip. So so we go, Justine.
I can picture people around the bar like just immediately becoming hushed, having heard the chink 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 of the ring going onto the bottle, all turning around, and it's ready to huzzah. And it's the sheep dip.
It did. Everyone was like, "Yay!" And then when they held up the bottle, it was like, "Oh." But it's a cracking pub, Chuktas. Great food, great drums, great beer.
What did you say the name was, guys?
Chuktas. It's called Chuktas. So Chuktas is a name given to folk, or was given up in an Aberdeen way, and the old pub. Chuktas pub itself was the old steamship ticket office, so that's where the Chuktas would disembark and arrive in Leith. That's why it's called.
So I just think the pub called the Chuktas Landing. So that's where they would come ashore from the thing there. In Glasgow, we've got the Chuktas Triangle. So there's 3 pubs. So people basically that escape from up north and from Islay and stuff like that, and from Mull. When they come down to the big smoke, come down to Glasgow, there's like 3 pubs. You got the Isla Inn, the Park Tavern, and the Ben Nevis, which are all like a 2-minute walk of each other in the triangle. So that's called the Chuktas Triangle in Glasgow.
That's fantastic. I love all of these names, like that have just been accepted over time. And when you look back as to why something's called that, it's fascinating.
Definitely. So how are you finding not being able to do the tours at the moment then? Obviously, you're not getting out as much, etc. Or can you still do a certain amount?
I did do a few in between the 2 sort of lockdowns. There was a time I did the Fife Whisky Trail. Numbers are limited. I could only have 6 people on the tour. But it was just to, keep it in people's minds that these things happened, and people were quite eager to, because during lockdown, nothing much was happening. So that worked quite well. But at the moment, you know, with the pubs being closed, do a tour, but I couldn't do the tasting afterwards. So it kind of disjointed, and you know.
I suppose it's frowned upon if you carry like 6 bottles or 6 half bottles in your backpack with you, and then just like stop at a random set of steps in Leith and just start pouring people wee jams and things.
To be fair, it's Leith. Nobody would ban it.
Here we go.
Oh, there you go. There's the
Carl on the ball again.
Sorry, what was that, Richard?
I just saw the picture that Carl showed up. So just if you wanted proof about how good he is at finding things quickly, there he goes.
That's actually another Tuctors.
I was about to say, is it the right pub?
That's not the Chuckers Landing. No.
There's a sister pub
as well. Yeah.
So there's a sister pub over, I think it's William Street, towards sort of Haymarket Way. You know, that town, the west end of town. But I mean, equally as good.
Yeah. We can't see him now, but I can guarantee you that Carl is frantically googling.
He'll be like,
trying to save some face as he goes. So yeah. So if you've had a bit more time,
Google so quickly.
Have you had any more time to look into what that warehouse was? That you found out what 99 warehouses were and their history, but have you found out about that particular one?
No, I haven't really found out very much. There are some maps which were created. I mean, they were basically created by insurance companies, and they label every single building. So 1850s, but unfortunately that one isn't on the map.
Very
so
yeah. Had you had a night on the whiskey beforehand?
Say that again, sorry, Nicky.
Does it even exist? Was it a whiskey haze sort of aberration that you saw?
Literally, as I look out my living room window, the building is there, but they've since converted it into everything in Leith has been converted into either apartments or offices. So it's since been, the last couple of years been converted into housing. So yeah, if there were any stray casks, well, they won't be there now.
No. You have to maybe try and up some flooring and try and find the actual original hearthstone or the original flagstone or something like that,
Yeah, no. So I mean, I keep looking, and I think that's why I enjoy this. I mean, we talked about leaving jobs where it really did feel like hard, and then doing something where you're working hard, but it doesn't actually feel like hard work. And I can lose hours and hours just looking at maps and newspaper reports from, the newspaper archives. I just get completely lost in all of this stuff. Doesn't feel like but the one thing I have realized is that you look for one specific thing, and then it leads on to about 40 others, sucked into this sort of vortex. And then before you know it, your entire day has gone by, and you found out.
And that's the thing, though, isn't it? You go out and you go, right, okay, I want to find out 3 things. You go to the first thing, but that opens up about 10 rabbit holes. And those 10 rabbit holes open up another 5 rabbit holes each, and so on and so forth. And you're like, oh my God, I've not even got back to rabbit hole number 3 of number 2 of number 1 of my original point. And you're like, that's 3 days just gone, I only achieved 1 day.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've all done that for sure. I think that history part of it. So because we're Mackmyra, only been around since 98. The company was founded, but 99 started producing whiskey. We're a distillery that is only really able to look into the future and into what's coming next and what we're going to do. There's not a great deal of history to look back upon. And I know that for myself and Mickey, one of the things that we like so much about whiskey in general is the amount of history that comes with it, and not just facts and figures and things, but communities that are built up around it, be they virtual now or literal towns that were built up around distilleries back in the day. So but having the time and being able, the position that you're in, Justine, where you're able, and it's in your interests through your businesses to learn more and more as you can, and sort of get paid in the process, or at least the more work you put in there, the better you can grow your business and grow your network at the same time. So to me, that sounds absolutely fantastic, being able to do that.
Yeah, I do consider myself very lucky. There are people who have to stay in a job they're doing because, as you said, Mickey, they've got the mortgage to pay, kids to feed. Yeah. So, it may not be what they want to do, but they have to do it. And I do consider myself to be very, very lucky to just be doing what it is that I love doing.
Oh,
Sometimes,
100%, you know.
yeah, sometimes it's a blurred line, you know, when your hobby becomes your work. It's like,
Yeah, that's
you
what
know,
people have said to me since I've started this as well, because this is my hobby that's become my job now. And somebody said to me, you know, get yourself another hobby. But I'm rubbish at painting. I hate jogging. I don't know really. I mean, I'm sure there's more than those two hobbies you can choose from in the world, but I don't really have anything else. Whiskey was my hobby outside. It was my distraction outside of work in the past. It was, you know, that and playing the odd video game, which I just don't, you know, seem to do anymore now. I'm just working all the time. When I'm not working, I'm attending a tasting. If I'm not hosting one, I'm on one, listening to someone else. It's how I like to spend my time as well. So I think at the moment I'm still riding that wave where the hobby being the job and the two sort of blurring together isn't too bad. But perhaps sometime soon I should start sort of thinking about hedging it a little bit and finding something else to do in the meantime or spare time.
There you go. Carl used to manage office performance from behind the PC. Nowadays, he manages us from behind the PC, but with a glass of whiskey in his hand. So there's a lot of transferable skills in the world, guys, that can take you into the whiskey industry. Do you know what I mean?
I'm getting paid now to work in the whiskey industry, but not have to come on, you know, camera like me and Mickey now and talk to everyone. He can sit back there and just in his pajamas right now. I guarantee you, if we're lucky, he's in his pajamas.
Well, if he's even got any clothes on at all, Rich, you know?
He's living the life. He's living the life,
isn't it? Just.
I was going to say, Richard, one of the books I read during lockdown, a great book called Atomic Habits, and one of the elements of that is habit stacking. So creating habits by stacking the other. So during lockdown with the Edinburgh Whisky Group, there were a lot of people who were shielding. There was nowhere to go. You know, so I would deliver drams to them. So I really took up cycling. So I would cycle around Edinburgh to deliver the drams. So that became a kind of new hobby stacked on top of another hobby.
But incorporating it, yeah, that's pretty cool.
However, it got to the point where it's a little bit worrying because I began to feel a little bit like the milkman because people would leave their empties on the doorstep. And I'll cycle and pick them up, replace them with full ones, and then cycle off. So again, you can get away with that in Leith, but you know, Morningside, Stockbridge, maybe not.
Yeah. I hope you weren't doing it at 5 a.m, delivering all these, you know, whiskies to people to start their day at least. Not the milkman in that way. Yeah,
no,
a PM drop off, hopefully. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, not for the cornflakes for sure.
No breakfast whiskies. No breakfast whiskies.
He's fully closed. Don't worry, everyone. Rest assured that Carl, he's just popped the jumper on. We're okay. Yeah. You see the banner on the top. Well, is that it? That's the last order.
Right, guys. That's last orders. So that leads us to our last question before we start to wrap things up. And Justine, it's going to be our new last question of the session, and that is the whiskey scenario question. So basically, picture yourself right in your ideal whiskey scenario. Where are you? What's in the glass? And who are you with, if anybody? You don't have to be with anybody. I enjoy a dram by myself sometimes, you know, and sometimes that's bliss. But yeah, so your ideal whiskey scenario, what is it?
I would say it would be a Glenfarclas, a very old Farclas, probably in one of the old bonded warehouses here in Leith, with the Patterson brothers. So I would ask them, why? So yeah, I'd ask Walter and Robert, why on earth did you do what you did? So that would be my whiskey scenario. Yeah. How about you guys?
Oh, Mickey, it's your question. So
mine keeps changing all the time. But I think I would stick to last week's answer where Matt asked as well, and it would have to be, I think, Electric 18 next to a nice fire, probably in an old sort of cottage out of the way somewhere, with a nice Robusto cigar, I think just nice, comfortable. Maybe a bit of rugby on the telly, just in the background or something, just to catch the eye occasionally. Relax watching that. I think that would be, that's still ticking my box for me at the moment. Rich?
Nice. Sounds good. Well, yeah, I'm with you on the whiskey. That's for sure. As you probably would have guessed, electric. I couldn't tell you which. If you asked me to put me on the spot now and said just pick one, I'd say there was a 15-year-old Rioja Cask finish, distillery exclusive that I bought a few years ago with my partner Heather. The first time that we'd gone to MALT together. And where, so again, if you ask me today where I fancy myself being, you could ask me next week and it might be different, but somewhere on the southwest of Mull, on the Ross of Mull, either near Kintra or a place called Skur, behind Benesson, just south of a small village called Benesson. Family connection there for me, and steeped in nostalgia, but also lovely views and things. So from Skur itself, it's a farm where my family lived for I think 4 or 5 generations. So off the back of the farm, you can see Isla, Jura, and Colonsey, and on an extraordinarily clear day, you can see Northern Ireland as well. So sitting somewhere up there, there's the occasional sea eagle that lives. There's a couple of them that live across the south coast of Mull there. There's no one. If you go there in the middle of winter, which I'm hoping to do for this New Year's, whoever I go up with, we should be the only people, within sort of almost like 15 square kilometres. So so nobody lives in that sort of particular part of it there. So sitting up there, perched on high, nice view, hopefully enough wind to keep the midges away, but not too much to make us cold. And nice a peated lechic, well, obviously, but a red wine cask, lechic for me. That's perfection. So ask me again next week. I'll probably tell you the same thing, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But
at the moment, because of the weather, and we've had a lot of time to think about this one, Rich. I think those particular scenarios for us are pretty etched in at the moment. But maybe come the beginning of the year next year, hopefully things start opening up and we get out and about. That might change again, But I suppose, it's always going to be. It's like the question: what's your favourite whiskey?
Yeah, ask me any day of the week.
It's always going to change, isn't it? It's always going to change. My favourite is my next one.
Who are you with? What have you eaten that day? What sort of mood might you be in? What have you been drinking earlier in the afternoon or in the morning if you're having a big weekend? But yeah, you're right. It can change, chop and change all the time. So
exactly.
I think electric in the summer would be cracking as well, though, on the beach.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Right. So, Justine, you've got a few tastings coming up for the Edinburgh Whiskey Group.
We do.
What are your next couple?
So tomorrow we have Bruce from Dramful.
Nice.
And then, of course, we've bitten the bullet. And on the 5th, next Saturday, we've got Mickey presenting.
Aha!
So looking forward to that. There's quite a few folks signed up. And I know some of them are familiar with Mackmyra, but a lot of them aren't. So I think they're really
we've got a pretty decent lineup for that. So even folks that are just getting into Mackmyra, there's something there for everybody, and people that have been through our core range before. Do you know what I mean? There's definitely a lot there for you, because I know we've not got a single core range bottle for that tasting. Everything's from seasonals or limited edition or a moment. So
I think so. I mean, there've been quite a lot of so many virtual tastings over lockdown, and I know that some of the guys in the group have been quite avid virtual whiskey subscribers. So there's been a few in the group who've tried your core range pack. I deliberately tried to avoid picking those bottles because they still already had those on the shelf. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Sounds it'll be good for sure. We're nice.
Sorry, Justine. So I jumped in then, Justine. I'm so sorry at the end. Yeah.
We're a nice friendly bunch, so it'll be great.
Well, I was only going to say, I'm sure everyone's very much looking forward to the Mackmyra one as well. But the Dramful, I tried a 31-year-old Invergordon, a sherried Invergordon, I think a few weeks ago, a bottle share that I went in on with some friends, and it was absolutely fantastic. But that's the only one I've tried from them. So that's me.
Bruce puts together some fantastic bottles, doesn't he, Justine?
Yeah. Yes, he's some cracking bottlings, but I mean, the only disadvantage is he doesn't have enough of them.
No.
Just me being greedy. It's like, can't. Yeah, it's difficult to get hold of them. So yeah.
It certainly is. It certainly is, guys. I think that's time to let Justine get on with a Friday night without bothering with us. Me and Rich need to go to work. What's that all about on a Friday night? Do you know what I mean?
Who have you got a tasting with this evening, Mick? I'm with the Little
So
Whisky
this evening, I'm with the Ayrshire Whisky Group.
Okay.
So the fine guys just down the road from me in Ayrshire. I think there's about 20, 25 of them. So that'll be through on Zoom. So that should be quite interesting this evening. Rich, who are you with?
Yeah, the Little Whisky Shop of Stockbridge, and again another lineup where people that are attending have done the core range of things. So we've got some really interesting drams there as well. And a moment, the Solsken that was actually bottled in 2010, but Mark from the Little Whisky Shop bought 18 of the final 30 that we brought out of storage as well. So looking forward to getting stuck into that one.
I've not long finished my bottle of that, and I'm sad that it's gone. Quite frankly.
Yeah, it's delicious. That's one of the better moments that I've had. I've enjoyed them all. I genuinely have enjoyed them all. But that one for me, I thought that was fantastic. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So Justine, would you like to give any final plugs before we sign off for the evening?
Just keep a lookout for the tours when they're up and running. Anyone who wishes to join the Edinburgh Whisky Group, join us on Facebook. It's free to join, and then you can just sign up for any of the tastings. It's just a club. It's not a business. Make any money from it. If I accidentally make money, which has happened, it either goes back into the club or we donate it to charity. So feel free to, if anyone's watching and would like to sign up. And even if you don't sign up for the virtual meetups, the banter's quite good on there as well.
It's a pretty good crack group. Like, in all fairness, it's pretty good crack in the group.
Yes, and yeah, thank you so much for asking me to join you this evening. It's I can't believe it's been an hour. It's gone by so quickly. I mean, it's always a good sign. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. We think so. We think so. Maybe we'll once things are back up and running again, if we're still doing this, then we'll get you back on, Justine. If you want to, that is. If you don't want to, I've had enough of those two already.
No, not at all.
Fantastic. So, guys, it's time to start wrapping up. Like me said, so next week we've got Moa on Wednesday, and we've got a guest next Friday in the inn. Rich, you've got a guest next Friday? Yeah, so we've got two guests next Friday. One of them has been commenting away, so I'm glad to see he's here. He's probably doing his research just to see how easy we can. So Dave Worthington of the Whisky Company is joining us next Friday, as well as Graham Skinner, someone who I've become friends with from the London Whisky Club, a Scottish gentleman who's one of these people that are members of lots of different clubs now, big whisky man, doing lots of virtual things, but huge whisky man. But he's been involved in a great deal of great many community art projects and things on the side, as when he's not drinking whiskey and being a drilling engineer, lots of art project things. So we've got him coming on, and Dave, and our theme for the evening will be looking at the arts around whiskey, be that labeling or bottle molds, or even just the art of the craft. So we've got two people I think perfect to talk to about it. Definitely.
So that'll be the theme for next Friday. Yeah.
Can I challenge Dave juggle next Friday? So I will tune in to watch him.
It's on, Dave. It's on. It's on.
Let's do it. We'll have Anton Deck outside his house with some juggling balls ready to jump through the window.
I think that's our first Mackmyra Inn challenge, Rich, as well.
I think it is. Yeah.
Awesome. So guys, to wrap it up, don't forget to check out mackmyra.co.uk for our fantastic Black Friday deals we've got currently running. Honestly, they are fantastic. There's some big savings to be had. So check them out. And it's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
And good night from me.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.